Welcome back to Power Tips. Today we're talking about Power BI, and we are delighted to have an amazing guest here, the Power BI expert herself, MVP Belinda Allen. So thank you, Belinda, for joining us. We asked her to join us because, frankly, we are not experts on Power BI, and the imposter syndrome is kind of kicking in big time here. So I'm going to kick it off with one of the tips that I saw in the release notes, which is that there's going to be an admin monitoring workspace. I love user adoption and different things to help people use the tech stack. So I zeroed in on this one. I thought it was kind of cool. It sounds like it's going to be tenant-wide historical data sets and reports in this dedicated workspace that are designed to help admins monitor and govern Power BI. That all sounds awesome to me. I've listed here everything that's included. It says public preview is May, but it also hasn't been done yet. So I don't know if this is here, if it's coming, if it's been delayed, but the release notes still say no, and it doesn't have a green checkbox next to it. And there's no general availability listed. But I thought this was kind of cool. What do you guys think?
I'm with
It
you. I like the
definitely
monitoring.
is. Definitely is. You want to know what people are using so that you can keep building in that direction to help them move forward with their data and start making better data-driven decisions.
Absolutely. And to see what they're not using. So you can drill into why, right? Hey, we built this thing. Nobody's using it. Do you even know it's available? Sometimes it's as simple as that. Oh, I didn't know it was there. And if it's, oh yeah, I looked at it, but it doesn't do what we want. Well, help us understand why that is so that we can make it what you want or what you need. So I'm with you, Heidi. I'm all things monitoring. Anytime we can get a glimpse into what people are and aren't doing is always helpful.
And sometimes they don't know how to use it. It might be a visual they don't understand or really understand the power of it. And that's where you go back to your center of excellence. And my favorite thing to do for a center of excellence is office hours. So that's a great time to dive in and deal with those very questions that you've brought up.
Now, Belinda, do you have any insight into when this will be available?
No, there's so much going on. I mean, Power BI the desktop has an upgrade every month. I mean, there are a couple months out of the year where they'll skip, and the service has an upgrade every week. So it's changing so fast anyhow. And with the onset of Fabric, I think some things may have just slowed down a little bit, but no. But I know people want it because governance is most certainly important. And that part of it, that's definitely part of the governance that you want to use. And speaking of governance, the queen of governance for Power BI is MVP Melissa Coates. And from her perspective, if you ask her, one sentence about governance, it's all about making data easier for people to use.
Good insight.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up on this one, and to Heidi's point, not I don't do a lot with Power BI. We have a couple of resources internally that we generally pull into any engagement that includes Power BI, but we see a lot of dependency on, hey, we want our data, we want it visualized easily, we want people to be able to digest it. And one of the things I know has been a challenge is getting in the service, not so much the desktop, but in the service, it can be difficult you have to basically copy and paste your data in there or lean on a published data set. And it looks like they're expanding that capability now to grab data from an Excel source or CSV or SharePoint or so on. And so to me, again, as somebody who isn't intimately familiar with all the things that Power BI does, this jumped out as me as something that I've heard as a challenge. So likely a wise decision to expand this capability a little bit. And then was also intrigued by a little bit lower in the verbiage around it. It talked about how Power BI was going to automatically generate the report. I don't really know what that means, but the way I perceived it is, as somebody who does a lot of work in the dynamic space, and this is available in SharePoint too, the visualize your data, right? Is that automatic, hey, we're gonna take what you're showing us and we're gonna take a stab at showing you some visuals we think are probably really useful. So if that is what that is meaning, and perhaps Belinda, you can clarify if you're aware, but if that's what that's talking about, that's a really handy feature because I know people struggle with, I don't even know where to begin. I know I have a lot of data. I know there's great stuff in here, I don't know the first thing about what visuals I should build when they're just getting started. So the idea that Microsoft's tool can just say, hey, here's some ideas, run with this, that sometimes can be enough to spur somebody on a whole new journey of, oh, now that I see that, I know I can do this and I can look at that and I can pull in this other thing and all that kind of stuff. So to me, that's a powerful ad. I was a little surprised actually that it isn't available today. So glad to see it coming.
Yeah, so I have a comment, and then to answer your question about this, it's a two-part answer. But the comment I want to say, first of all, I hear that a lot. I don't know where to start. I know that there's value in my data. I know I should be using my data, but you don't know what you don't know. So if you're not an analyst, you don't even know where to begin. So, but that doesn't eliminate the need to create a good data model. And 90% of your time in Power BI should be creating a good data model. So you need to you don't skip that step. I mean, these automatic reports are not going to cover for a bad data model. Okay, so that said,
Good call.
There's two parts of this. You can get an insights report now for data that's already published online. You could just go in and create a report, and it'll create an insight report for you based off of your current data model. And that may or may not be valuable because Power BI can't go in and say, oh, you're in this particular industry, so we're going to, like, you're in the medical industry, so we want to go in and do evaluations of turnover compared to required vaccines or turnover compared to patient count. It doesn't know what industry you're in. So, but it is a pretty powerful report, and it looks really good. And it's a great place to start. There's also a Q&A. I like to give people just a screen with 4 Q&As, because then they could just click on the questions you've pre-done, or they could ask, and then they build their own reports. But this is more referring, in my opinion, I'm guessing, well, not the top part, but once you have your data model, there's going to be Copilot in Power BI. It is not out yet. And in Copilot, you could go in and be much more specific and say, I don't know what I don't know, but go in and look at all of my CRM data and show me some analysis between leads and opportunities, and it will build a report around that. And so that is where it's getting much more powerful. So there is a version there, but Copilot is going to kind of marry those two other areas that I talked about, the insights and the Q&A, so that you get a custom report that is very specific for that. It's funny, my daily reminder to spend time learning Fabric just popped up.
That's awesome timing.
Awesome. Well, good insights. Thank you for expanding on that.
Yeah, so we all need to look forward to Copilot.
Yeah.
Copilot everywhere and connecting everything.
Exactly.
So I had one quick tip, which was around accessibility features. So some new features are coming to the model view to support keyboard navigation, high contrast, alt text, all of those fun things to make it easier for all makers to make use of the model view. It says this public preview is coming in September, but the general availability is unknown, probably needs some feedback from people using it, but exciting to see investments in making all of this easier for everybody. Any other comments on this?
Yeah, if accessibility is something that you are really keen to, perhaps you have people who have some visual needs in your own company and you want to work with them on that, you should check out Megan Longoria is her name, but it spells like Megan Longoria, and she is an MVP for Power BI, and she's kind of the queen of accessibility, and she's very, very sharp about that. But everybody should be focusing on color blindness in their system. 1 in 11 men are colorblind, and if you think about how many men are looking at the report, you don't want to give them, I always use this as an example, but you don't want to give them a pie chart that's all gray and say, look at the differences, right?
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
tips.
great call out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're telling us so many new people to follow. It's great.
I
Yeah,
know, it's
absolutely.
great.
Oh, she's great to follow just in general for, I mean, she also blogs on other things, but accessibility is really her game. And she talks a lot about colors. When I would create a visual, sometimes some of the colors will, like some of the text or something will come out in a lighter shaded version of black. And I would always go back and make it the darkest black. And she's like, no, 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 people don't always respond to that darker thing. But so she focuses on that. But there's even people who have ADD issues and ADHD issues, doing something like even on the PowerPoint screen you're seeing here. Each of those three bullets are easy to separate because of the blue box behind them, because of the border around the white area, and because it just the way, especially on the right side in the alt text one, the color is very different. And for people like me, when I look at like a white background and I don't see clear definitions between the visuals, my eyes just lose focus, and it takes much more concentration for me to read. And we want the story of your data to just jump off the page at you like an animation and say, look at me, I'm here. And if you can't focus on that, then it's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, awesome tips.
I'm going on a Disney cruise, so I'm very into animation right now. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's great call out that accessibility features are for everyone, right? Like
Yes.
everybody has something that is difficult for them. So all of these accessibility features help in different ways, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I'm really intrigued. You mentioned your daily reminder about fabric popped up, and I'm
Which is
really
a
curious
great
because it's a
segue
perfect segue.
to
Yeah.
why we really needed Belinda here. What is this fabric thing and why does it matter to the Power Platform?
Yeah,
Agreed.
so Fabric is a whole new platform. And first, most and foremost, I want to say it does not change Power BI. It just gives Power BI another data access point and extends it even further. So for those of you who are already in the process of learning Power BI, are starting a Power BI methodology in your company, our business, don't freak out. That's not changing. Power BI is simply one of the products in this platform. So I'm real excited about it because I've been working with Power BI since its inception, and we've always been straddled between the uh, well, Dynamics Power Platform and Azure. And Power BI is really part of Azure, but it gets lumped in with the Power Platform family a lot. But occasionally you run into something that's talking about the Power Platform family and they're talking about everything except for Power BI. So we've been straddling everything. So now we have our own space. And so that makes me really happy. And Power BI is one of the components of it. So now that I've told you this, Fabric is a group of different products that provide not only capacity for data, but extend the capacity for data. So you could see the products that are included across the top that are part of Fabric. Of course, if we go right to left, we got Power BI, we've got Synapse real-time analytics, Synapse data science, data factory, Synapse data engineering, and Synapse data warehousing, and even things like machine learning fall into this area. So it is taking Power BI and the AI tools that exist in the world of Azure and making this really large, I'm going to say it's an enterprise offering. It's always been there, but it's felt very piecemeal. Now they're making it easier and making it work together significantly better. And so that's what they're doing. And everything resides in this area called One Lake. And so one of the coolest things about it now, Synapse, you could use Azure Data Lake on Synapse for Power BI for quite some time, but you could create what's called the serverless compute area, which is very cool because if you are accessing data in a warehouse, all the data that's brought in is molded and shaped and organized in a very specific way as part of being in the warehouse. Where this is different is you could just bring in the data source into the space. And there, in some cases, you don't even have to bring the data in. Like right now, AWS, if that's where your data is, you can actually just make a shortcut. So your data only resides there and you're just dealing with the shortcut link. That to me is one of the more exciting things about this, because then you're not managing that same data in multiple places.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get it in there, they have what they call the medallion levels, which I don't really like. And so I don't like the naming of it. So there's bronze, silver, gold. So like bronze, I think of as like raw data. So that's where you have all your raw data. And then you have an area called silver, which I like to call dev. And this is where you're molding your data. And then you have your gold, which I like to call the accessible data or used data or production data, whatever you want to call it. That's where like Power BI and all these other tools are going to use. And it uses a lot of different languages that you could work with. So I'm really excited because T-SQL language, I can reuse that for the three of you. I believe I'm right in that you go to the CRM and SQL background anyhow. So if you were able to reuse some T-SQL knowledge, you'd be like, yay. And because I always say in Power BI, we have two different languages in Power BI without this already. And at least two, we have DAX and we have M. And I always say the next language is going to be functional universal, or FU, because there's so many languages to learn. And so we have Spark, where you could use Python to do things. Oh, we also have Python and R in Power BI as well. There's KQL, where you could work on with your data in Kusto, and then of course analysis services, and they're all using a Delta Parquet format for the data. So there's a little bit of learning if you want to take it that particular path. Now, what makes me really excited about this, because I typically work with SMB people personally. So SMB to me is a very complex one-person shop, or it's a relatively simple business that is just below a Fortune 5000 company. So it's a really big area. It really depends upon the complexity of your business and the volume of data you have. For example, I was just training this week with a company that they are very large, but their data set is not, for what they're using, is not like overly large. I mean, I'm talking a billions and billions of rows of data, or, a couple terabytes of data or something like that. It's not hugely large. So, so they don't need to go into any of the complexities in this, but sometimes these SMB customers, and this is very probably true in your world as well. I know there's been a lot of conversation recently I've been following. I still call you in all your products CRM, because
So do I. So
yes, that's what it is, and in my mind. So I've stayed out of the conversation because I should have no bearing on it, but I still refer to it as, it's how I explain the differences of the Dynamics family. There's CRM, and then there's the ERP systems. And it's more complicated explaining the ERPs, the variances, but anyhow. So for the CRM, if you have a lot of complexity in a data model that you're trying to build, this is where I'm really excited. So complexities meaning how you're connecting to the data or how you're putting it together. I'm excited about this because you could purchase capacity in this OneLake. It's really a software as a service. So you could purchase the capacity and do a lot of the modeling in here in Fabric. and then just let Power BI use the fabric data. So I'm looking forward to it decreasing the need for a lot of different pieces. We could just stick in the fabric family when there is a lot of complexity in data, because one of the big powerful things about Power BI is you could have disparate data, and that is more common than not when you are working with analysis reports. And so you probably run into it all the time where you're comparing things in CRM to things in an ERP system, and potentially even a variety of other applications that they use as part of their, like maybe some kind of inbound marketing or something like that, so that you want to compare all those together. So if it gets too complex, that it slows down the performance model, this is a great avenue for it. So I'm excited about that. Does that help
Best
understand it a
explanation
little?
of fabric I've received.
Yeah, agreed.
And there is, even with these, there is a new product coming out soon, already announced as part of Fabric, called Data Activator, which essentially is Power Automate native to this. Now, there's a lot you could do with Power Automate and Power BI anyhow, but this is something you can use, which is kind of cool, because some of the example of ways I like to use it is if you have a cell over or an opportunity over X dollar amount, then you might want to say, oh, this let's send an announcement out to everyone in the company, say, congratulate our sales team, they've done a remarkable job, or congratulate Heidi because she had this really big sale she landed, and so everyone, applaud Heidi. Yep, there she is. And so there's a lot of things you could do like that are powerful. There's native work with what we have in Power BI called alerts, but you might want to do it with other things. So sales or cash is always a really big example. I have not worked with a customer yet, when I was working with financial data, that there wasn't somebody in the company that wanted to know the amount of cash in the bank every day. So why not just like fling it to them every day? Nobody has to do anything. And so a lot of power and things like that.
I know we're
Clear this up a little?
super helpful. I know we're probably at or over time, but I have a really quick question. That's a lot. There's a lot, right? Like all things Microsoft, there's a lot of moving parts. Where's a good resource to go to start to learn? Where should people start if they're curious on starting to follow the Fabric journey?
Ms. Belinda Allen.
Herself, yeah.
I have two different areas that I'm going to direct you to. One is Microsoft Learn. They have done a really good job creating tutorials, and they have trials that you could just sign up for temporary, that give you a 30-day trial so you could take the labs. That is a really good source to go to. And another thing, two of my wonderful friends, both Power BI MVPs, Chris Wagner and Kevin Arnold. On Chris Wagner's YouTube channel, every Friday morning, they're doing a Learning Fabric session where it's all about they are learning it, and they're taking people on their learning journey with them, and you can comment. And you could find Chris on Chris's channel on YouTube. He is Kratos BI, Kratos BI. He goes after a lot of the Greek things, and he assigns people gods and goddesses of data. My goddess of data I was the goddess of inspiration. So because sometimes we just sit in chat, and then we're both walk away going, oh. And so we inspire each other. At least he says I inspire him. He definitely inspires me. So either one of those sources, but the trial is, in Microsoft Learn, just look up Microsoft Learn Fabric, and totally worth it. It's really they've done a good job with that. Yep.
Good stuff.
It's a lot though.
Well,
Well-
thank you so much, Belinda, for joining us on Power Tips, and we will catch you all in 2 weeks for our next episode.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
That was really good, Belinda. Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.